Revelation 11, we see the temple and the two witnesses. Revelation 11, starting in 1, then I was given a measuring rod like a staff, and I was told, rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship there, but do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it's given to the nations, and they'll trample the holy city for 42 months. So the third temple is built during this first 3.5 years. And the Temple Mount is shared with the Gentiles. And we see that right now forming. The rabbis, they are calling for the third temple to be a house of prayer for the nations. And they're interpreting that as everybody can come and worship their own God there. Of course, that's not what God meant. But here we see that's what it'll be. It'll be the temple will be there, but also the Gentiles will be there. And so for that first 3.5 years. And so here, along with the temple, we see the two witnesses, and these really do go hand in hand, the temple and the two witnesses. The temple will be rebuilt, and during the time that the temple's being rebuilt, these two witnesses are going to be on earth. So I will grant, continuing in verse 4, I will grant authority to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the two olive trees and the two lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. And if anyone would harm them, fire pours from their mouth and consumes their foes. If anyone would harm them, this is how he is doomed to be killed. They have power to shut up the sky, that no rain may fall during the days of their prophesying, and they have the power over the waters to turn them to blood, and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they desire. And so we see here these two witnesses, they prophesy for the first 3.5 years. Now, most agree that one of the two is Elijah. Malachi 4:5 says, I will send Elijah before the great and terrible the day of the Lord. Jesus said that John is a type of Elijah, but Elijah will come and restore all things. The rabbis actually say that they need Elijah to understand everything that needs to be done for the third temple and to restore worship. They need that. And this is really cool because it makes a lot of sense when you look at Zechariah. So I believe that the other one is Moses. Moses, because it was Moses and Elijah on the mount with Jesus when he was transfigured, and also because their miracles line up with that. So we see these same phrases in Zechariah. In Zechariah 4, he is talking about two witnesses. He's talking about two olive trees and two lampstands. And these are used describing Zerubbabel, which is the governor of Judah. So you have a leader, and Joshua, a high priest during this time. So this is the time when the people were first returning from Babylon and they were rebuilding the temple. Okay, so this is so cool. So now we have another two olive trees and two lampstands after the people have returned a second time, all of Israel returning in the last days to rebuild the temple again. And so again, there's nothing new under the sun. God repeats himself. And so you again have these two that are going to be instrumental in helping people understand what is needed to be done. Now, they're going to be instrumental in restoring Jerusalem to worship, but everybody is going to hate them. The world is going to hate them because they're going to be telling the truth. They're going to be prophesying, and they're going to have their testimony of Jesus. And so continuing in verse 7, and when they had finished their testimony, remember they're prophesying, their testimony is for 1,260 days, 3.5 years. They are in Jerusalem wearing sackcloth, saying Jesus was your Messiah, and you missed it. And the world hates them. So when they finish their testimony, the beast that rises from the bottomless pit. So again, we know time-wise, this bottomless pit has to open before the midpoint. because they're killed at the midpoint after their testimony, which is 1,260 days. So this abyss, they're doing this for 5 months. So it has to be at the very least after the 3-year mark. So the beast that rises from the bottomless pit will make war with them and conquer them and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city that symbolically is called Sodom in Egypt, where the Lord was crucified. For 3.5 days, some from the people and the tribes and the languages of the nations will gaze on their dead bodies. Everybody will be able to see them and refuse to let them be placed in a tomb. And those who dwell on the earth will rejoice over them and make merry and exchange presents, because these 2 prophets had been torment to those who dwell on the earth. And so here we see it's the middle point of the tribulation. It's at the 3.5-year mark. The world is tormented by these men that were telling them the truth. They die, and the world says, no, you cannot bury them. We want to be able to look on YouTube. You can look on YouTube right now and see live cams. We want to look on YouTube and be able to see their dead bodies in the streets being defiled and decimated. And we want to go on Amazon and send each other gifts because we're so plagued by the truth that these men told. And so we see the leader of the demonic horde of the abyss is the one who gets to kill them. He's the one that kills them. The entire world is going to witness this. They're going to witness their ministry. The entire world is going to hear enough of their warning to hate them. They're going to be infamous, and everybody's going to rejoice when they die. But continuing in Revelation 11:11, but after 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered into them. And they stood on their feet, and great fear fell on those who saw them. And then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." And they went up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies watched them. And at that hour, there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe has passed. Behold, the third woe is soon to come. And so here at this midpoint, remember, this is the same time frame where the Antichrist is going into the Holy of Holies and saying, "Stop the sacrifices, I'm God." And here God's 2 witnesses have been killed, and he resurrects them. There's this huge earthquake. And remember, we looked at the news article last week where they're already warning there could be an earthquake that would kill 7,000. And there's this huge earthquake that kills 7,000. And here God demonstrates his power in bringing the dead back to life in front of everybody. The whole world will literally get to see it happen. And all of this is going on at this pivotal mid-trib point.